You're watching Outsiders, and thank you for watching Outsiders. It's a dark day, as we've been saying, not only here in Sydney, the after events of the horror show at Bondi Junction yesterday, but also now there is an attack on Israel from Iran, drones and missiles. Joining us now is Dr David Adler. Now, David, you live in Bondi, you know the area very well. You run the Australian Jewish Association, which has the largest social media network in Australia of the Jewish community. Now, the first thing is the police are telling us categorically there was no ideological or religious motivations behind the killing, although, as we've been discussing, they don't know what the motivation was. But what I wanted to ask you about, David, is the impact before the killer or during the slayings and in the immediate aftermath. You would have been inundated with social media photos. I was certainly, but it would have been much more on yours. The terror, regardless of what the motivation of the killer was, there was terror stalking the streets of Bondi Junction, and the Jewish community would have been rightly terrified.
Absolutely correct, Rowan. And of course, we are in a very heated environment anyway. And initially, to not make too light of it, it walked like a duck and quacked like a duck and looked like a duck. And a lot of people thought, yes, this was terrorism. Throughout the world, not just in Israel, but in France, in the UK, even in America and some European countries, there was many examples of these so-called lone wolf terrorists that use a large knife to carry out their crimes. And that was the original assumption, and I understand that assumption, obviously, and we're very relieved, if you can use that word in such a tragic context, that it does not appear to have been terrorist motivated.
And what was it like for the Jewish community? I mean, it must have been absolutely horrific.
Well, it was a shock, and it's a shock anyway because Westfield complexes are associated with a famous Jewish family, the Lowys, of course, and they're known as supporters of Israel. Bondi Junction is the commercial centre of the eastern suburbs. The eastern suburbs has the largest Jewish community in Sydney. And we know, I don't have permission to identify the names, but amongst the victims were Jewish people, as you would expect, attacking in a crowd indiscriminately in that location. There will be Jewish people amongst it. So it has impacted the community, regardless of whether it was terrorist motivated
Liz.
or not.
I understand, David, a gentleman known to you in the Jewish community has introduced himself basically and let you know that there's being a story painted by commentators online. In fact, Channel 7 even ran with it, that this horrendous crime was actually perpetrated by a Jewish person, which of course is completely, patently untrue. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely, and this is just shows how an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory can get hold.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of large social media accounts with the names of Syrian Girl and Russian Cossack, rather infamous in their attitudes.
They are.
And it was picked up, as you say, by mainstream media, Channel 7. And the name that was given falsely, it was entirely fake news, to the perpetrator was Benjamin Cohen. And there is a real Benjamin Cohen. His name is indeed trending on Twitter, and he's been in touch with us and said, "My name's Ben Cohen. I am currently trending on several social media platforms following a false accusation that I am the attacker." And then he says, I've heard that you're coming onto Sky News, and I'd love for you to bring up this false accusation, how it is used to propel anti-Semitism. and destroy my name in the process.
Unbelievable.
Okay, so fake news there about Benjamin Cohen. I want to talk to you about Iran and the attacks on Israel this morning. Donald Trump has come out and said, we'll just have a listen, that is all, and I agree with him totally, and you will too, David, because you wrote about it in The Spectator Australia, that it's all Joe Biden's fault. Have a listen to Donald Trump.
The people of Israel, they're under attack right now. That's because we show great weakness. It would not happen. The weakness that we've shown, it's unbelievable, and it would not have happened if we were in office. You know that. They know that. Everybody knows that. But America prays for Israel, and we send our absolute support to everyone in harm's way. This is an attack that would not have happened.
So, David, you're too modest to say I told you so, but you did tell us so. You did warn about this right back when Biden was elected, that this would lead to war in the Middle East.
Well, it's turned out worse than we forecast. And it's not just Biden. This is in part the John Kerry, Barack Obama legacy. They released billions of dollars. It was continued by Biden. And in Australia, what can we do? We recently had our government backflip on the prescribing of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organisation, and that has to be revisited.